Hello everyone and welcome back to Dragalia Foundry, a fan channel where everything Dragalia Lost can be found. This video is going to contain my reaction to Chapter 21, Part 2 of the main campaign. I'll also be sharing some thoughts and predictions on the game's 3rd anniversary, which is just about a week away, less than a week away at this point. And tomorrow we're going to find out a lot more information in the form of a Dragalia Digest YouTube video posted over on the Nintendo mobile channel. So the anniversary has approached really quickly this year for me. I haven't made as many preview and catch-up videos as in years past, just as time has not permitted me to do so, but I am pretty excited about the anniversary. Very confused and excited about the latest story update. I have a lot to talk about in this video, and I figured I needed to drop at least one video before my digest reaction, which I will upload sometime tomorrow after that goes up. So I hope you've been enjoying Dragalia Lost, but consider this a little bit of a catch-up for me as well. Well, Chapter 21, Part 2, I don't even know where to begin with this, and we will get into full story discussion here, so if you want to avoid that, now is your chance to walk away. As far as my anniversary thoughts and predictions, I really feel, and I've said this in the past, that Dragalia, not that it's necessarily at its end, but it just feels in a state of completion. Do you ever have those projects that you work on that you seemingly can constantly iterate? You can always make it a little bit better and a little bit better. I think that gacha games and games of services are kind of like that, and Dragalia just seems to have so much permanent content at this point. It seems to have addressed a lot of the core player concerns that I think the outstanding issues with it around a player base for co-op and just getting more people engaged with the game, it's other than those two, I feel like it's really built out a robust offering as far as a gacha or mobile title. So in the sense that, is it over for Dragalia Lost? I don't think so, but in the sense that it feels like a more complete game, that's kind of where I'm at with it. And because of that, it just makes me even more curious about what's coming next, because in the past there's always been, a story thread left to unravel. There's always been, but if only this gameplay mode worked like this. And now I feel like we've gotten to the point where we've tried a lot of different things. We've experienced having permanent defensive battles. We've gotten this experience with this battle royale mode, which might be as close as we're going to get to something that is, more procedural, where every run feels different. But yeah, it's a weird anniversary in the sense that I think in every year past, it felt like there's always some, ancient lore in the game's history that I was curious about finding out more on. And this time around, I just feel so in the dark. Like I have no idea what the game is going to throw at me next. And this chapter definitely, captured that feeling for me as well. Like, I don't know if I want to say jump the shark because that has a negative connotation, but this went in such a different direction that I was expecting. Like so many, proper nouns were used in this chapter of characters of biblical proportion. So anyway, this was kind of a crazy chapter. I think it might be a crazy anniversary. I feel like the game's future is so up in the air for me. And I think that's an exciting thing. Like, those two core issues that I feel like Dragalia Lost still has, as far as just having a player base that's super engaged, especially with the co-op, and just attracting more players, maybe they're trying to shake things up and rework the formula a little bit about recurring events and the cadence, the frequency of those, how often new content is released, in part to make it easier for new players to jump in, because that has been a challenge in the past. And I know as some of these games of service go into their twilight years, if you will, sometimes to make things more accessible, you do want to slow down on the content releases so that more people can enjoy the experience. So I don't know if that's part of it. Like, I don't know if it's shifting resources to Dragalia Lost 2 or what the case may be. There's a mysterious Nintendo Direct happening tomorrow that I didn't even know about until just a few minutes ago when I was reading up on the day's news. So that also has me wondering, like, is it Dragalia on Switch time? I do think for sure we're getting something related to the church arc. We have this Divine Deception rerun happening right now, and some of the stuff in the main campaign definitely overlaps with that, and we'll go ahead and get into that now. So you had a pretty good while if you wanted to avoid big spoilers. I'm going to go ahead and play through the campaign on hard while I talk about what my experience was like when I first played through this. So it's been about half an hour or so since I finished this, and we'll just let these run on auto here. But my overall feeling with this chapter was just sort of being overwhelmed by the amount of things happening. Nedrick wanting to reforge his pact with Bahamut, needing the Dawn Shard to go into the past to do so, but also he has learned a way in his travels with Jin Lorda to break the chain of causality or make it so that that past will affect the current timeline as well. But also, hey, it's Zethia, and also, hey, it's Ilya, and at the same time, it's Ferris and Baron, they're here too. It felt like one of those moments where I really wish that Dragalia Lost had an anime, because it just seemed like so much to communicate with portrait stills on the screen and one character or a handful of characters shown at a time. Like, this scene of the meeting of all the characters feels like it needed a lot of space to really be communicated what actually was unfolding on the stage. Also, by the way, Gala Audric, he's still there, so hope you didn't forget about him. Of course, all the sidekick characters like Ronzel, Cleo, Mim, not present at all because there's not even room to have this many characters in one chapter, really. But anyway, it starts off with like everybody possible showing up here at this tree, with maybe a handful of exceptions of important characters, one in particular, Harl, not being there yet. And Nedrick goes in the past. He's trying to reform his pact with Bahamut. Zethia tells everybody that they can't let that happen. The reason is that apparently his goal is to give everybody the power to shapeshift, but in so doing, not everybody's bodies are going to be able to respond well to that or have the mana or I guess the tolerance for that. And those people might be stuck in some kind of limbo between a dragon and a human form. And so even though his claim is that he wants to give this power to everybody to protect the weak and give them the power of shapeshifting and make it more democratic, at the same time, it is also kind of Darwinian in the way that it could potentially cull off people who can't tolerate that level of power. So, interesting kind of flaw in Nedrick's ideology, I think. At first, I felt like his approach was very Hobbesian, like the idea of we're giving everybody a loaded gun. It's very Leviathan, right? Of like, everybody now has power, and we've democratized this power, this weapon, which I thought was super interesting. So now when he explains how it's about the weak and wanting to protect them, it does feel more in line with what Jin Lorda expressed in the previous chapter. So I kind of get their relationship a little bit more and how really close their ideals actually are, and it seemed like they have a very special relationship. I don't know what the nature of it is, but by the end of the chapter, that was kind of the reading that I got of things. Anyway, he goes in the past. This is his plan. Zethia, Ilya want to stop things. Apparently, Ilya has gifted Zethia with some type of special blade, which she can use to prevent this from happening. And because she has so much mana as an Auspex, she is going to be able to travel into the past as well, use this blade to steal a pact, the pact that Nedrick is trying to perfect with Bahamut and become pact-bound with Bahamut herself. Now, one thought that really crossed my mind when all this was happening is, what makes an Auspex special? Because Ilya, apparently the original Auspex, or perhaps you could say Mine is the original Auspex, like, why doesn't she have that power if she's an Auspex proper? Or Zaina, maybe it's because she's like an astral projection or something, but anyway, I guess it has to be Zethia. Maybe it's because of the relationship she's formed. Also, I don't know why Mordecai is here. By the way, here's Void Elysium that we're fighting right now, but anyway, we'll get to that. So, Zethia goes in the past. She seemingly just like one-shots Nedrick. It's over pretty quickly. But meanwhile, in the present, Ferris and Baron have showed up, and they're causing no good as well. They're letting this happen. They're letting Zethia go into the past. It seems to all be part of their grand plan or grand scheme of things, and they seem to still be really OP, which we later find out sort of why that is. But they show up. Everybody's here, right? It's like Smash. This is a good sign that Yuden may be coming to Smash tomorrow. Everyone is here in Dragalia Lost in this chapter. So, anyway, eventually, Nedrick returns to the present. Zethia returns to the present. Zethia has completely transformed. She looks unrecognizable to my eye. Apparently, it is like a special form that she has, which is her Bahamut form, in which she suffers the consequence of blindness, but has heightened senses and is still able to sort of perceive things around her, maybe using the power of mana or something like that. But she still has like the ability to dodge and has these reflexes that she can communicate to the team to help them survive the onslaught of this void Elysium that's battling everybody. It didn't really make sense to me in this moment, like why Elysium was becoming corrupted with black mana, what Ferris and Baron were ultimately after. And anyway, we then have to battle Void Elysium. Nedrick is also sort of distraught that his plan has been foiled, but Zethia seems to have sort of saved the day by taking on Bahamut. But it also seems like maybe it's had consequences on her, like changed her personality, affected her in some way. Like there will be a cost. And Ilya even says that it could cost her life, the whole process that she went through of going to the past. Ultimately, we fend off Elysium at least enough that we're able to escape, and the tree starts to collapse, the party sort of gets separated. The group that stays at the top includes Gatov and Audric, who of course we know is actually Aurelius, Chell and Valix's father. We get a nice little acknowledgement about it as Audric prepares to fight against Ferris, and then we get this reveal, which I am still totally befuddled by. I did not see coming, and maybe a lot of y'all saw it coming, and I just was behind the curve on this, but apparently Ferris is the progenitor. Now granted, we literally just found out about the origin and the progenitor in the last part of this chapter last month. These were not terms that were in the Dragalia Lost Lexicon, but as I understand it, the origin is Bahamut, also known as the Dragon of Creation. The progenitor is the human of creation. The progenitor's body was sealed away in the other world, and the origin's body was lost. That's what I remember, but this is all still pretty new to me, these terms and characters. Anyway, the progenitor is the one that wants a world of perfect order, and Bahamut, or the Origin's, the one that wants there to be free will. This is the idea of Nedrick wanting Bahamut's pact and utilizing that for people to, in his perspective, be liberated, be able to obtain the power of dragons, etc. But Ferris being the progenitor, or at least him being a vessel for the progenitor, a mortal shell of the progenitor, was not something I foresaw at all. There was this really morbid moment when you could see Ferris's expression turn to this like evil expression, and the progenitor explained that he was using Ferris's body. Apparently the original Ferris had like died in the pursuit of his research to try cure his worm scale, but his research eventually led to the unlocking of the progenitor from the other world, and yet at the same time it consumed and killed him, and the progenitor was able to take over his corporeal form. It is kind of funny that I think the progenitor says something about human flesh sacks, but the progenitor is said to be a human of origin. So I think, of origin. That's kind of confusing because origin is the name of Bahamut too. But yeah, it just was so shocking to me that happened. And it feels so different from the direction of Dragalia Lost that we've been in, which is why I sort of wonder, are we jumping the shark? Is this a move to kind of like attract a different audience of players, or just get people more interested in the story with these more mythological elements to it? Ultimately, we get a confrontation between Audric and Gatov and Ferris as they stay at the summit and clash. Valix and Michelle and a couple others leave in their own camp. And also down below is Yudin with Zethia, and they're confronted by Baron. Baron makes a point of wanting to confront Yudin and just sort of mock or belittle him, or just, kind of pile on about Yudin not really being human and not really being a prince. And Yudin actually handles it well. I mean, he takes it in stride. He's not hung up on that. He believes in the power of friendship and anime, so he's all good. And Baron, of course, he can't understand why can Yudin be happy, and why can he have human connection and be beloved, even though he's kind of otherworldly being. So clearly Baron, doesn't understand, human relationships, I guess, and maybe there's a little bit of jealousy component to it. At the same time, I assume that Baron is aware of the progenitor, and he's actually loyal to the progenitor and not really loyal to the original Ferris. That's the way it seems to me, and that seems to be, at least at some level, like why Baron has all this power. If the progenitor is like a creator god in this universe, it does explain why they're so OP a little bit, at least. And it also kind of explains, Elysium being an instrument of them makes sense as well. Why Elysium is so powerful with this direct connection to this god, but the fact that they corrupt Elysium, it says to me that the progenitor is willing to use really apocalyptic means to accomplish a goal of perfect order and harmony. So in the same way that the Elysium of old was willing to destroy the world rather than let humanity kind of destroy themselves and just reset the world, it almost seems like now Ferris, aka the progenitor, is on this path of like, we're gonna summon demons and the devil to create an apocalypse and bring calamity upon the world. Like, was sort of my understanding by the end of it, but a very loose one at that. So in the confrontation, obviously Audric is devastated about what happened to Ferris. He wants to defeat the progenitor. He teams up with Nedric and Jinlorda because they also want to defeat the progenitor. I mean, his goal was to forge a pact with Bahamut in opposition to the ideas of the progenitor, so it kind of makes sense that they team up. And ultimately, the clash ends as Ferris and Baron retreat because apparently another part of their plan has already been fulfilled off camera. And we come to find out that is that Harl, all the while, had gone in and infiltrated the Fairy Kingdom for some yet unknown reason relating to Metatron and the revival of Satan. I know it sounds like I'm just saying words and making things up, but I promise you I'm not. These are things that were expressed in this chapter of Dragalia Lost, which maybe, maybe it's not as dramatic as I'm making it sound, but I was just completely taken aback that this was now brought into the main campaign from previously a side event in which we knew that Basilius had a goal of trying to revive Satan, Basilius being one of the apostles of the Northern Church. So yeah, that is brought into the main campaign. Apparently the progenitor is on board with this, aka Ferris. They want to revive Satan as well. So I have no idea what type of possibly literal hellscape they're trying to unleash in the world of Dragalia Lost to reset things to a orderly state. But as I understand it, Metatron, not a figure I know much about, but I believe that they have, it's sort of an angel of the veil, perhaps, in Kabbalistic Judaism. I don't know much beyond that, but definitely an apocryphal figure at the very least. So I have no idea what's coming next for Dragalia Lost, y'all. Good or bad, but this was kind of a lot to take in one day, so hopefully I've expressed that well in this reaction. Let me know what you thought about this chapter in the comments below. The last thing that happened was we got this scene with Yuden and Nedric confronting each other once everybody has kind of reunited after we had Ferris, Harl, and Baron depart. And their ideals are still at odds with each other. And it seems like there's going to be a clash, a fight between these two, purported seventh scions to see whose ideals who will really reign supreme. Now, based on the preview we got of Chapter 22, it sounds like that's going to be interrupted by the direct appearance of Bahamut, the Worm of Genesis. So I guess that's happening next time. As for this time, for Gala Adventurer Alert, I would say probably Zethia in her Bahamut form is going to be the Gala for the anniversary. You'll likely find that out tomorrow in the Dragalia Digest, and I'm also guessing that for our anniversary 2-part event, it's got to be something related to this just deluge of mythological happenings that is happening in the main campaign. Like, that's the only thing I can assume that would make sense, because there was so much to unpack here. Hopefully having 2 proper events dedicated to some of this stuff gives it more room to breathe. I think that pretty much covers it for my thoughts. I'm sure that I've missed and overlooked something, so apologies for that, but Please leave a comment if there's something else that you want to talk about. I will be reading those as well as the comments tomorrow when it comes to the digest, but for now I'm going to go heads down, try to avoid spoilers. Going to be wishing and willing a Switch port of some type into existence. That is going to do it for today though, everyone. So thank you as always for watching. Take care, and I'll see you next time.